Well, that was a fun talk with Richard Flamer and then Frank Cordero. And now we have our final segment of the evening, Frankie's Corner.
Hi, Chuck. How are you? You hear me well? Breaking. Okay, we'll try. When I keep talking, it's going to be fine. We're getting closer to the holiday season, right, Chuck? Yeah. You have any plans?
Not so much. My big, holiday is the Thanksgiving. It was our 163rd family reunion.
Wow. That's something. Wow, that's amazing.
Quite a tradition to have.
Oh, that's beautiful, Chuck.
Yeah. For Christmas, Lorraine and I will be staying home. We may do something on Christmas Day. I'm not sure. I'm going to be singing in a candlelight service on Christmas Eve, so that'll be good. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm very excited this year too. I don't know, something is very special this year.
Good,
yeah,
good.
Families together. That's very nice. So, good night, my dear audience. Another night of Frankie stories. Here we are. So, our journey tonight is not through a museum, not through a textbook, but through a life. A life so intense, so fragile, so burning with color, that even 140 years later, we still stand in front of those swirling skies and whisper, how could one man see the world like this? This is not the story of a successful painter. This is the story of a man who failed at nearly everything he tried, except for feeling. And in the end, those feelings shaped a revolution. This is the story of Vincent Van Gogh, the man who painted not what he saw, but what he felt. That's my topic tonight. So let's start from the beginning. Vincent's very first breath came with a strange kind of destiny. Picture this. It's a chilly March day in 1853 in the sleepy village of the Netherlands. A baby boy is born into a respectable family. His father, a stern Protestant minister named Theodorus, and his mother, Anna, a woman with a passion for gardening and quiet reflection. They name him Vincent William Van Gogh. But here is the first quirky twist in our story. Little Vincent wasn't the first Vincent. Exactly 1 year earlier to the day, his parents had buried a stillborn son with the same name. So, our hero grows up wandering past his own gravestone in the churchyard. Constant reminder of mortality. Spooky, right? Can you imagine being a kid and just passing the gravestone with your name? It's kind of weird. So many believe it contributed to that lifelong sense we see in his letters. A feeling of being out of place, out of time, somehow not quite built for the world around him. He was an intense, sensitive boy, brilliant in some ways, deeply troubled in others. He felt everything with painful depth. Vincent is shy, serious, a bit of a loner. He sketches bugs and flowers in the fields, but art, not yet, not yet. His family pushes him towards the proper job. Fast forward to his teens, Vincent drops out of school at 15 No rebel phase, just very practical move. He lands a gig at his uncle's art dealership. Here he is surrounded by masterpieces from the likes of Rembrandt and the old Dutch masters. He falls in love with art, but not as a creator yet. He's selling it, traveling to London and Paris, soaking up the culture. But then he started lecturing customers about morality when they were simply trying to buy a painting for the dinner room. So he got fired. By his 20s, Vincent was searching desperately for a calling, and he tried everything. He tried being a teacher, he tried being a preacher. Actually, in London, he falls head over heels for his landlady's daughter, Eugenie. Vincent proposes her on a whim, and she says no. So, heartbroken, Vincent spirals. He turns to religion, following in Dad's footsteps. He lived among poor miners in Belgium, giving away his clothes, sleeping on the floor, caring for the sick. He poured every ounce of himself into his work, so completely that in fact the church told him he was too excessive and dismissed him too. Can you imagine that? Getting fired for being too compassionate. Very sad. But life has a strange way of redirecting us. Every dead end was quietly pushing Vincent towards the one thing he was meant to do, even though he didn't know yet. Vincent finally picked up a paintbrush at 27, an age when most artists of his era already had some reputation. But what he lacked in experience, he made up for with his obsession. His early works were dark, heavy, full of browns, blacks, earthy, serious, almost stubborn. He wasn't interested in beauty, he wanted truth. His first major painting, The Potato Eaters, captured peasants' harsh lives with such honesty that most people hated it. They said it was ugly, grotesque, but Vincent defended it fiercely. These people eating their potatoes under a small lamp have dug the earth with the very hands they now put into the dish. This was his heart, unpolished, uncompromising, raw. He wasn't trying to flatter the world. He was trying to reveal it. And throughout all this, there was one constant: Theo, his younger brother. Theo believed in Vincent when absolutely no one else did. He supported him financially, emotionally, spiritually. Their letters, hundreds of them, reveal a deep, beautiful brotherhood that carried Vincent through the darkest moments of his life. In 1886, Vincent moved to Paris to live with Theo, and suddenly the world exploded. He met Gauguin, Toulouse-Lautrec, Bernard, artists who were bending the rules of art in ways Vincent had never imagined. He discovered Japanese woodwork, those wood blocks whose bold lines and flat colors fascinated him. He fell in love with the Impressionist bright palette, the pointillist dots, the neo-impressionist experiments. It was as if someone had lifted a veil from his eyes. The muddy browns disappeared. In their place came lemon yellows, cobalt blues, fiery oranges. He began to paint with thick, quick strokes that seemed so vibrating on the canvas. So the Vincent we know today, the Vincent of sunflowers and swirling skies, was born in Paris. But no, the noise and the chaos of the city overwhelmed him. He dreamt of sunlight, of space, of building a community of artists who would inspire each other. So he headed south. When Vincent arrived in Arles in 1888, he felt as he had arrived in a dream. He was writing to his brother Theo, the light here is a whole different thing. He rented the now famous yellow house, and for the first time he felt he might have a home of his own, not just physically but spiritually. He painted furiously, more than 200 works in 15 months. The sunflowers, the cafe terrace at night, portraits, landscapes, blossom, orchards, everything seemed alive and glowing. This was the happiest time of his life. And yet, Vincent was never made to live in simplicity. His life always seemed to tilt towards intensity. So when he met Paul Gauguin to join him in Arles, hoping to start that dream of the artist community, so he invited a hurricane into his sanctuary. Gauguin was brilliant, charming, confident, everything Vincent wasn't. Vincent admired him deeply. But admiration is not the same as compatibility, right? So they clashed almost immediately. They argued about technique, about color, about philosophy, about everything. Vincent wanted harmony, Gauguin wanted freedom. Vincent wanted connection, Gauguin wanted dominance. Their relationship became a storm, beautiful at times, but dangerously electric. One night, after a terrible argument, Gauguin walked out, and Vincent unraveled. In a moment of confusion and pain, he cut off part of his ear and delivered it, carefully wrapped, to a woman at a local brothel. This is the moment the world reduces to a myth. But we must remember the human truth behind it. Vincent was sick. Vincent was in pain, desperate for connection, terrified of abandonment, overwhelmed by the intensity of his own mind. So Gauguin leaves. The town people are now frightened of Vincent, and his golden dream of Arles got shattered. Vincent admitted himself to an asylum in Saint-Remy in 1889. And even there, in a place meant for confinement, his creativity bloomed. He painted the hospital gardens, the olive trees, the wheat fields that surrounded the walls. He painted his own pain, his own trembling mind. And from the small window of his cell, he painted the night sky, not as it looked, but as it felt. Swirling, living, full of movement and mystery. The Starry Night, perhaps the most famous night sky in the world, right, Chuck? Starry Night by Vincent Van Gogh. This was Vincent's gift. He painted energy, emotion, the pulse beneath the invisible. He painted the wind. In 1890, Vincent moved to Auvers-sur-Oise to be near Theo, his brother, and to work under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet, an eccentric, compassionate doctor that loved art almost as much as Van Gogh. And Vincent worked. Oh, he worked 70 paintings in 70 days, Fields, storms, cottages, portraits, all infused with an urgency that seemed to rise from the earth itself. But the pressures on Theo, Vincent's own fragile mental state, and his fear of being a burden grew heavier day by day. On July 27, 1890, he walked into a wheat field and shot himself. Vincent's final words were, "La tristesse durera toujours," the sadness will last forever. His brother Theo died 6 months later, consumed by grief. But love has a way of working miracles. Theo's wife, Johanna Van Gogh, gathered Vincent's paintings, preserved their letters, and dedicated her whole life to sharing his work with the world. She became the guardian of his legacy, and slowly, very slowly, the world began to understand. Vincent van Gogh may have died believing he was a failure, but the world spent the next century proving him spectacularly wrong, building an entire universe of art inspired by his life, his colors, and the storms inside him. His influence began quietly with Irving Stone's novel Lust for Life, a dramatic, deeply sympathetic retelling of his turbulent biography that turned Vincent into a tragic hero. The book became so popular that it was adapted into the 1956 film starring Kirk Douglas, whose intense performance with the wide eyes, the fiery beard, the manic energy turned Van Gogh into the archetype of a suffering genius. So, talking about the legacy of Van Gogh, we need to stop here to dedicate some time to the movie called Loving Vincent. It is one of those films that makes you wonder how anyone ever had the nerve to attempt it. The idea came from Polish painter Dorota Kabiela, who first imagined it as a short piece. But once she realized she could tell Van Gogh's story using his own visual style, the energy of his brushstrokes, the warmth of his colors, she and the co-director, Hugh Welchman, committed to something far bigger than they expected. They decided to make the entire feature by hand, one painted frame at a time. To do this, they recruited more than 100 trained oil painters from all around the world and put them through months of unusual preparation. Instead of learning animation in the traditional sense, these artists had to learn how to act with paint, how to express emotion, movement, and character through a single brush stroke. The actors, including Saoirse Ronan and Douglas Booth, first performed their scenes in front of cameras. Then the painters translated those performances into Van Gogh-style canvases, one frame after another. By the end, they had created 65,000 individual oil paintings. It's an almost unreasonable number, the kind of figure that reminds you that this film wasn't just produced, it was crafted. The team even had to invent tools along the way. Digital easels that could hold reference footages, a custom workflow for photographing wet paint, and software to track each brushstroke as it changes from frame to frame. So none of this was meant to simplify the art. It was simply the only way to allow the painters to work with the freedom and texture of real oils while still creating a coherent film. And because so many scenes are built from Van Gogh's own paintings, his room, his favorite cafe, the landscapes he loved, the movie feels less like an animation and more like stepping directly into the world. What makes Loving Vincent outstanding, though, it's not just the technique, impressive as it is the intention behind it. The film sets out to show Vincent not as a tragic figure defined by a single incident, but as a man of empathy, curiosity, and relentless dedication to beauty. You know, instead of delivering a straightforward biography, it invites us into the last chapter of his life through the eyes of those who knew or thought they knew him. Facts blend with interpretation, and art history mixes with personal reflection. The result is a film that feels intimate, human, and quietly powerful. When you watch Loving Vincent, one of the most moving threads running through the story is the bond between Vincent and his brother Theo. Theo isn't on screen constantly, so he doesn't appear in every scene, but you feel him everywhere, like the quiet heartbeat behind Vincent's life. The film reminds us again and again that Vincent wasn't truly alone. He had someone who believed in him, someone who loved him unconditionally, even when the rest of the world dismissed him as eccentric, unstable, or a failure. I was fascinated because this film also portrays the subtle emotional weight of their relationship. Theo is more than just a supporter. He's a kind of an emotional anchor. He supplies the practical necessities, money for pains, a place to live, but even more, he offers validation, understanding, a human connection. You see the difference it makes in Vincent's life when he feels Theo's presence, even at distance. He's steadier, braver, even more willing to reach for beauty and expression in art. And when Theo is absent, loneliness intensifies. When you leave the film, it's that relationship that lingers, the bond of two brothers, one burning with creativity, creative intensity and struggle, and the other one quietly holding the flame. Another piece of art inspired by Van Gogh, now in music, Don Lynn's song Vincent, also known as Starry, Starry Night. It's one of those rare works that transforms painter's life and art into something you can feel as deep as you hear. When in 1971, McLean didn't initially set out to create a hit single. He simply wanted to understand Van Gogh, a man whose brilliance was inseparable from his loneliness, his suffering, maybe madness. McLean has said that he was inspired after seeing reproductions of Van Gogh's paintings in a book and learning about his tragic story. He was particularly moved by Starry Night. I don't blame him. With its swirling sky and vibrant energy. And McLean felt compelled to capture both the visual beauty and the emotional intensity of Van Gogh's world in just one song. The song took him months to write, with him carefully shaping each line to reflect the painter's vision and inner pain. He even joked later that writing it was like painting with words, and not to Van Gogh's own method of translating feeling into color. The song begins with a soft, contemplative guitar that immediately draws you, the listener, into a quiet, reflective space, like stepping into a dimly lit gallery at night. MacLean's lyrics read like a letter across time, describing the golden fields of daffodils, the cypress trees bending like dancers, and the stars that seem to tremble with fire. But MacLean doesn't represent Van Gogh only as a tragic figure. He celebrates the painter's vision, the beauty he created. Despite a world that largely failed to understand him, there is so much tenderness, empathy in every line, as if MacLean is inviting us to walk beside Van Gogh, to see the world through his eyes, to feel his longing, his hope, his brilliance. I love this song. It's definitely on my playlist when I feel like that. One fun anecdote about the song's creation is that MacLean originally intended it to be a part of a larger collection of songs about misunderstood figures. But Vincent became so personal that it demanded to stand alone. He experimented with different arrangements, testing guitar, finger picking patterns that would mirror the gentle motion of Van Gogh's brush strokes. Before settling onto now iconic version that flows as naturally as the painter's lines. Another interesting fact is that MacLean didn't give this song a title or reference in Starry Night at first. It was just a tribute to Van Gogh. Only later did the public and radio DJs begin referring to it as Starry, Starry Night, because the opening light was so evocative, linking the song immediately to the famous painting Starry, Starry Night, and I can totally see it right now. So when it was released on the album American Pie in 1971, Vincent received critical acclaim for its poetic lyricism and emotional depth, even though it wasn't as commercially successful as the title track, American Pie. Over time, however, it became one of MacLean's most beloved and enduring songs. It has been covered by countless artists, translated into multiple languages, featured in films, documentaries, of course, art exhibitions. So, audiences frequently describe the experience of listening as entering Van Gogh's mind, feeling his beauty, his pain simultaneously. MacLean himself has marked that he was surprised by how many people connected to the song emotionally, often sharing that it introduced them to Van Gogh for the first time. I think that's amazing. That's why I love to choose the topics that can be recognized in different spheres. I love when artists from different fields inspire each other. Like Van Gogh inspired MacLean, but MacLean's song opened the world of Van Gogh for his listeners. Chuck. Oh. Oh, yes, a little bit. Oh my goodness, but thank you so much, Chuck.
Merry Christmas, and I will see you next year.
Thank you so much, Chuck. What a pleasure. What a nice time. Thank you so much, and happy holidays. Oh, yeah, we're going to meet the new year sometime soon and be ready for new Frankie stories, right, Chuck?
All right, Frankie's
Yes.
stories. Yeah, love them. All right, thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for being with me on the New American Dream Radio. We're going to be. I'm here every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. So tune in, come back to see it. Don't forget to support Revolution Radio. Good night, everyone.
I wanted to add that in his lifetime, Vincent sold only one painting, just one. Today, his works are priceless. Museum treasures, cultural icons, emblems of the human spirit. Children who have never heard his name can recognize his sunflowers. People who know nothing of art know his swirling night skies. He's everywhere, in posters, in songs, in films, in the way we talk about passion and madness and genius. But more than that, he has become a symbol of persistence, of sensitivity, of the aching beauty of life that burns too brightly. So why was his style so unique? What made Van Gogh's art so revolutionary? It wasn't realism. It wasn't perfection. It was that he painted the world as if it was alive. Every field trembles, every star spins, every cypress flames upward like a torch. His brush strokes are heartbeats. His colors are emotions. His lines are waves of thought vibrating across the canvas. Van Gogh didn't paint things, he painted the feeling of things. He painted loneliness, hope, fear, joy, madness. He painted life. He broke every rule the world expected him to follow. And in doing so, he built a new visual language, one that still speaks to us across the centuries. So what? In the end, it's Vincent's gift to us. That beauty is not perfection, that emotion is not weakness, that to feel deeply, even painfully, is to be alive. When we look at Van Gogh's painting, we aren't looking at the world through his eyes, we're looking at the world through the soul. A soul that hurts, a soul that loved, a soul that tried again and again to make sense of its own insanity, of its own intensity. And somehow in that struggle, he left us something miraculous. A universe of color, a storm of stars, a quiet man's heart beating on canvas. He taught us how to feel it. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching.